agree with that. I think right now more people are worried about whether they can watch ESPN on YouTube TV tomorrow than they care about this. And that's certainly going to be true in 1 year, 5 years, or 10 years from today.
Eric, hold on, but what they do...
Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, Scott Jennings is holding down conservative values on CNN, while Miles Taylor, who admitted to sabotaging Trump, lectures about authoritarianism. The panel's caught up in political drama, while Scott's focused on what voters actually care about. I'm breaking down why he's absolutely right. Make sure you watch until the end. Please comment down where you are watching from. It's great to see people from all over the world connecting in here. All right, now let's get into the video.
Political romances are often short-lived, and she has been critical of him not only about the Epstein files, but about his involvement in foreign affairs, and I don't mean with women. I mean in various parts of the world.
You said it, no.
Just to clear the table on that one. and so it's not surprising that they have had a breakup of sorts after all. He didn't give her a ring. He just supported her for a little while.
Listen, this fire is spreading. I mean, right, it started off talking about Epstein in the beginning. Then during the shutdown, she was one of the few Republicans that correctly identified Donald Trump's unwillingness to deal with the ACA subsidies and lower health care costs for Americans as being one of the reasons why the shutdown occurred.
Yeah, she was very outspoken about that.
Now she's talking about foreign policy. This is not going away. Whatever is going on between them seems to only be heating up, and I think the rest of us should get the popcorn.
I think
I'm here for it.
And a war with words, sorry, Scott, a war with words with Donald Trump is such a risky business that I cannot believe she has the bravery to engage in it, because even if she was right, she's still going to lose.
Is there an example of anyone beating Donald Trump at this game?
Never. This is his game, and he's great at it, and she's barking up a tree that she's going to fall on her really hard.
You know, it's interesting. He has some people who profess to be strong supporters who do oppose him more often than the people that you might not think are his strongest supporters. She's one of them. Thomas Massie in Kentucky is another one. Rand Paul, my home state senator, he takes on Trump, although they profess to be Trump supporters. In this case, I think he had the order out of order. I trace all this back to his decision, the righteous decision to strike Iran. She was against it. So were some of the people who occupy that wing of the party. He defied them. And since that time, they all seem to be stridently picking at him on this issue or that. And then, of course, everybody knows in Washington, Miles, you know, the fastest way to get in front of a television camera if you're a Republican is to come out and crap on Donald Trump. And so that is what she is doing.
But you know, Scott,
that is what she is doing because
I trace it back further than that, Scott.
Over these issues, and that's what happened.
Scott, I trace it further back than that. I trace it back to 10 years ago when you said Donald Trump was an authoritarian. And you know what, Scott, I've got to hand it to you. That was a remarkable forecast, because 10 years later, I think you called it. Here's Donald Trump today, the man with the heart and soul of a fascist, showing us he now has the bona fides. By tonight, ordering investigations into American citizens. That's why members of his party, that's why members of his
running the executive against him. Why are you so upset he's running the executive branch?
For the same reasons you predicted he shouldn't. For the same reasons, Scott, you said he violated his oath and he should never be back in that office.
I happily voted
That's why I'm upset for the man being in the Oval Office.
I happily voted for him 3 times.
I know that.
The alternative was terrible.
And a lot of your friends were shocked.
Yeah, well, a lot of my friends would have been shocked at you trying to subvert the elected president of the United States, which you did.
Oh, well, I proudly did. I proudly
some
said
mid-level
to the
staffer
country
substituting his judgment for the elected president of the United States.
Well, Scott, I would have loved to have seen you stand up to it.
Good luck.
Back to MTG. Is it the sign of a changing tide? Is it the sign, or is it a singular one back and forth between one Republican who is getting into a fight with Donald Trump? Or do you think there is a possibility that it is the beginnings of Republicans seeing?
Okay, can we talk about the absolute nerve of Miles Taylor sitting there lecturing Scott Jennings about Trump being authoritarian? This is the same guy who admitted on national television that he tried to sabotage a sitting president from inside the administration. He literally said, "I proudly did subvert the elected president." And somehow we're supposed to be worried about authoritarianism? You don't get to undermine democracy and then wrap yourself in the flag claiming you're defending it. That's not how this works. But let's talk about what's really happening here with Marjorie Taylor Greene. Stacey Schneider nailed it. Going to war with Trump in a battle of words is political suicide. She's absolutely right that nobody has ever won that fight. Not Jeb Bush, not Marco Rubio, not any of the 16 people who tried in 2016. And you know what the sad part is? MTG might actually have legitimate policy disagreements. Maybe she's right about some foreign policy concerns. Maybe there are conversations worth having about executive power and investigations. But the second you turn it into a public feud with Trump, you've lost the argument before it even starts. Because now it's not about the policy anymore. It's about the drama. It's about the spectacle. And that's exactly what this panel wants. Did you hear them? Get the popcorn. They're excited about Republicans tearing each other apart. Scott Jennings made an important point that everyone just glossed over. He mentioned Thomas Massie and Rand Paul, principal conservatives who sometimes disagree with Trump on policy, but they don't make it personal. They don't turn it into a circus. There's a way to have these conversations within the party without handing the media a sledgehammer to beat us with. And this isn't it. When you're a Republican criticizing Trump, you better make sure it's about substance and not about getting your face on CNN. Because the second it looks like you're auditioning for liberal applause, you've lost your own base and gained nothing. The real question isn't whether Republicans are seeing past the Trump era. The real question is whether we can have honest policy debates without it turning into a reality TV show that only benefits our opponents.
Past the Donald Trump era.
The short answer is that we don't know.
Because you've got like Thomas Massie saying exactly that. Like your vote on this discharge petition is going to outlast Donald Trump's time here. So you need to consider that when you make your decision.
But if we keep paying attention, what we see is that last week the president got his clock clean in an election. All the Republicans got their clock clean in an election. This week we see what's happening with the Epstein files. So next week we're going to see them take a vote. And if we see a bunch of Republicans defect on the Epstein files, I think what we're seeing is the real testing of the waters to find out whether or not you can oppose Donald Trump and still get elected. When we talk about Marjorie Taylor Greene, the one thing we haven't talked about yet is her fundraising prowess. And according to sources, she is the most popular fundraiser in the Republican Party other than Donald Trump.
She's
If
at
that's the
12%
case,
in the
they're
vote.
going to divide up.
This prediction about no one's going to care about this.
I was asking it a question. I wasn't predicting it.
No, you said people were. Somebody said that this was going to outlive.
Tom Massie.
And the prediction that this was going to outlive. I totally disagree with that. I think right now more people are worried about whether they can watch ESPN on YouTube TV tomorrow than they care about this, and that's certainly going to be true in 1 year, 5 years, or 10 years from today.
But what they do care about, hold on, but what they do care about,
Republicans did not get their clocks cleaned last
They do
week.
care about
They
the
did
fact that the
not.
president's sort of breaking everything.
Right.
They see a hole in the White House right now. I was in Detroit last weekend for an event, and it was the number one thing people came up to me at the scholarship dinner to ask about. Is it okay for the president to tear down the White House without anybody's permission?
That was the number one thing?
That was the number one thing that people brought up unprovoked.
Ridiculous.
To find out about.
Totally
I keep hearing
ridiculous.
this over and over again. It's like, no one cares about this because they only care about that.
You know what they care about? They can't buy a house.
That they can't
They
they care about
houses
affordability.
aren't
Eric-
unaffordable and that food costs too much, but they don't care about the White House. The fact is, a president
don't
who
care
can't
about the
model
White House.
the White
Many
remodel
people
the White
care about the White
That's
House.
ridiculous.
Every
A president
visitor-
who
Many
can wage
Americans
war,
care about the
who
White
can
House.
make
You
major
don't care about the White
decisions,
House.
can't remodel a room in the White House.
He didn't remodel it. He tore it down. He tore down
Tomato
a third of the White House.
Tomato tomato.
In the middle of a
I couldn't
government
tear down my
shutdown.
garage
Ridiculous.
without getting a permit from the city.
And that's
He can tear
overregulation.
down-
But let me ask you this.
Destroying our
I
country.
think
And he's tearing down a
I think
ballroom.
this often when people say, you're all talking about this, but here's the focus should really be this. People hold multiple thoughts and focuses in their heads at the same time. Like people can care about multiple things. They can care about not being able to buy a new home. They can care about the skyrocketing cost of food, which we'll talk about shortly. And they can care about, I don't know, anything else. Stacey Plackett getting text messages from Jeffrey Epstein, if you want to take it from Scott's side. Like, you can hold all of these thoughts. I always think it's just someone trying to say to me, I don't want to answer your question by just trying to deflect that way. I find it a deflection when people say, don't focus on this. You need to focus. Everyone only cares about this one issue.
Well, I mean, if you're analyzing it from the perspective of like political consultant speak, like what do voters care about? How do we get voters to move a certain direction? Next year, the way you'll get voters to move would be on cost of living, healthcare. I mean, things that actually motivate their lives. They may have some interest in this, some passing interest in it, but motivation to vote? I mean, everybody knows what the bread and butter issues are. This won't be one of them, but the ones that will be relevant are quite obvious.
Here's where this entire discussion goes completely off the rails. They're sitting there debating whether people care more about ESPN on YouTube TV or the Epstein files, and I'm watching this thinking, do you people even talk to normal Americans? This is exactly what's wrong with political media. They're in this bubble arguing about White House renovations and discharge petitions while families are choosing between groceries and gas. And then they act shocked when voters tune them out. But here's what really gets me. The moderator pushes back and says, people can hold multiple thoughts at once. Okay, sure. Technically true. But that's not the point. The point is what motivates people to vote. What gets them off the couch on Election Day? And I promise you, it's not whether Trump got the right permit to remodel a room. Scott Jennings is absolutely right here, and even Miles Taylor, who literally just admitted to sabotaging Trump, agrees with him. When your fiercest critics are nodding along saying, yeah, voters care about cost of living, maybe that should tell you something. You know what I found fascinating? They mentioned MTG is the second biggest fundraiser in the Republican Party after Trump. Second biggest. And yet, they're treating her like she's committing political suicide by picking fights with him. Well, which is it? Is she done? Or is she raising millions? The disconnect here is staggering. These panelists are worried about whether Republicans can outlast the Trump era while completely missing that the Trump era exists, because he spoke to issues everyone else ignored: housing affordability, food costs, jobs. The things that actually impact people's daily lives. And now we've got Republicans potentially testing the waters to see if they can oppose Trump and survive. On what? Epstein files? White House renovations? Are you kidding me? This is how you lose elections. You get so caught up in palace intrigue and media narratives that you forget why voters sent you there in the first place. They didn't send you to Washington to argue about building permits or to become CNN's favorite reasonable Republican. They sent you there to make their lives better. The people in Detroit aren't asking about discharge petitions. They're asking why their grocery bill doubled. That's the conversation we should be having. Everything else is just noise designed to distract us from actually governing.
I disagree with Scott fervently on Donald Trump, and I could not agree with him more on that point. Voters aren't going to care about this next year. For better or for worse, they are going to care about things like affordability. Everyone in politics is going to be running that direction in the lead up to the election.
The people that do care about it, though, and consistently get lost in it, are the victims of Jeffrey Epstein, who then just wrote a letter to members of Congress saying, think about if this was you, and think about if this was your child when you're taking this vote next week.
Do you think
I am saying that because...
Do you think the victims would agree with Donald Trump asking the Department of Justice to look into people that may have been involved in this and got away with
Scott,
it?
I will
it would have been
100%
nice if he did
not
it
speak
when he
for
got
victims.
into
I know they can
office.
speak for themselves. I do know that Democrat, even Ro Khanna, said, everyone, investigate it.
Well, there seems to be a lot of anger about Donald Trump saying, well, maybe these people need to be looked into. Why?
Right.
If they were involved in it.
I think where the interest is if these people are looked into, a member of Congress actually said it today, we don't have time to run it, but if these people are looked into, does that mean that Donald Trump can be looked into as well?
Is there a shred of evidence he ever did anything untoward?
Is there a shred of evidence?
No.
that
About
anyone else
anybody
did?
else? Is there a shred of evidence? No.
I
All
can
right,
tell
same
you,
answer for the
I
other
spent
people.
time-
Wait, hold on. Did you catch what just happened at the end there? They bring up the Epstein victims. And yes, absolutely, these victims deserve justice and answers. That letter to Congress is heartbreaking. But then watch how quickly this turns into, well, if we investigate others, shouldn't we investigate Trump too? This is the game. This is what they do every single time. Trump says, maybe we should look into people who were actually involved with Epstein, which, by the way, even Democrat Ro Khanna agrees with. And immediately it becomes, but what about Trump? And here's the thing that really matters. When pushed on whether there's any evidence Trump did anything wrong, the answer is no. When asked if there's evidence against anyone else, the answer is also no. So what are we even talking about here? You don't get to use victims as a political weapon. You don't get to say, think about if this was your child, and then turn around and make it about settling political scores. That's disgusting. If there's evidence someone committed a crime, investigate them. I don't care what party they're in. I don't care if they're my favorite politician. Justice isn't partisan, but you can't just throw investigations around like confetti hoping something sticks, because you don't like someone politically. And here's what nobody wants to say out loud. Trump actually banned Epstein from Mar-a-Lago years before any of this became public. He cooperated with investigators. There's a reason why, after years of scrutiny, nobody's found anything. But notice how they frame it? If we investigate these people, shouldn't Trump be investigated too? Why? Because he knew Epstein in the 90s like half of New York society? Because there are photos at parties. That's not evidence of anything. This is why people are exhausted. The victims deserve real investigations based on evidence. What they don't deserve is their tragedy being used as a political cudgel. And what the American people don't deserve is watching serious issues get turned into another round of Get Trump instead of Get Justice. Either follow the evidence wherever it leads, or stop pretending this is about justice at all. So what do you think of this? Leave your thoughts in the comments section below, and please don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next video.